Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone watching from all over the world, and welcome to HasNa's live virtual event on women as peacebuilders in Turkish civil society. I'm Rukmini Banerjee, president of HasNa, and I'm thrilled to be joined here today on the penultimate day of Women's History Month in the US by Ms. Sevna Somuncuoğlu, the founder of Demir Leblebi Women's Association, an Ankara-based nonprofit organization that promotes peace building and conflict resolution by elevating conversations on women's rights in Turkey. Sevna's reputation as a peace builder and women's rights activist precedes her. Over the course of her 30-year career, Sevna has served Turkish civil society in a variety of roles, from board member and director to consultant and trainer. She has developed a wide array of training modules and has conducted workshops on cross-cutting topics such as gender mainstreaming, nonprofit management, and the history of the feminist movement. It was our honor to feature her as the 2020 HasNa Peacebuilder of the Year. You will also find a detailed bio of Sevna on our event page on the website. And we have a lot of ground to cover today. And so we're hoping to jump right in, especially in light of the recent events in Turkey. So without wasting any more time, we're going to start the conversation. So just a few quick reminders before we begin. We will be keeping some time in the end to address questions from the audience. Please feel free to submit your questions through the Q&A feature on Zoom. And we are also currently live streaming the event on YouTube. So for anyone watching the live stream, you may also enter your questions through the chat feature on YouTube, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So welcome, Sevna Hanım. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you. As always, it's been a pleasure to correspond with you. And, we were really happy to hear that you were going to participate in this webinar. So thank you once again. We're very grateful. So I just want to start by asking you, can you tell us a little bit about Demir Leblebi and your own career as a women's rights activist in Turkey? And also, I'm really curious to know, how did you come up with the name Demir Leblebi?
First, let me say I am very happy to be together with the audience who are interested in peace studies and women issues, women's studies. And it will be my pleasure if I can convey some of my experience in this field to the audience. So thank you to you to giving me this opportunity. First of all, I have to say İstanbul Sözleşmesi yaşatır. This is a Turkish sentence which we use as if it is a good morning or hello word in Turkey nowadays, and it means Istanbul Convention saves lives. So I just made my duty. So let me start by sharing my screen to give you some milestones of the questions that Rukmini asked me, if I will succeed to yes. Yes, Demir Leblebi Kadın Derneği, we translated to English Hard Nuts Women Associations, and I will just tell why we choose this name. But before that, how we come together and to start such an association. After 2013, which peace process was in the agenda, we, some feminist activist women, joined together and formed an initiative called Women Initiative for Peace. So we were involved with the peace process, but unfortunately, still nobody understands why this process ended in 2015. So everybody was speaking about peace and how we will build peace and how we can flourish peace culture in this country. Suddenly everything stopped. But at that time, some of the activist feminist women who were working for Women Initiative for Peace come together and decided that we have to give voice and peace, and it is more important to make it now when the peace process was ended. We were saying that the primary social need in Turkey is peace. And we have to implement and defend culture of peace. That's why we formed this association. And since then, we are working with various projects to defend the culture of peace. Why we choose this name? There is a phrase you can see here. Sorry. Ne yenilir, ne yutulur, ezilir, ne baş eğer. This means that the subject that we are dealing is very hard to continue. We are aware that, but on the other hand, we will insist and we will just hold on hard to this idea. Hard nuts, demir leblebi means, it's a phrase, and demir leblebi means this. And I don't know, still there are discussions about the translation, but I think this phrase hard nuts gives hard nuts meaning a very similar meaning with the Turkish demir leblebi. That's why our name is demir leblebi, because we know that speaking about peace or advocating for peace culture is a hard nut subject in Turkey, in this land. Morphich's Purple Phone Book is our latest project, and we will open it tomorrow. It is a really phone book, like a phone book, a website that you can reach a lot of expert women in their field and in various fields. Of course, we have we come together among an idea. So if you register in Purple Phone Book, you cannot speak about violence, or you cannot be for violence, or you cannot make any discrimination or gender discrimination. So if you agree to these ideas, then you can register in the Purple Phone Book, so everybody can reach to you when they need your idea, your opinion. Why the need was still in Turkey, especially in media, in TV stations, when there is a discussion, even the discussion is about women, 5 or 6 men are discussing the issue. Nobody thinks to reach any women still. So media coverage of expert women is very low. That's why we started with this phone book, and we think that it is a gender mainstreaming work. We have to work in all the fields. Of course, most of the women now who registered in the Purple Phone Book is mostly Peacebuilders. So it helps also to raise voice for peace culture and conflict resolution and other issues also. My personal story is before 1980, before the military coup, I was an activist for human rights. But just now I will put a small dot there, because after 1980, a second women movement started in Turkey. And then I became an activist for women's human rights. And we had some milestones in this era. And until 2000, I was working especially the women movement history, and my subject was early and forced marriages. So nearly 10 years I worked early and forced marriages, which is a big issue in Turkey. And according to the Istanbul Convention, it is a type of violence against women. After 2013, I became also a peace builder, conflict mediator for the conflicts, and then still I am continuing to work in this field. So this was my very short personal story and the story of Demir Leblebi Kadın Derneği.
Thank you so much for sharing. Since you have talked about peace building and how you felt that peace building was one of the main concerns in Turkey at that time, I guess my next question to you is that in what ways do you think that women are uniquely positioned to contribute to building a culture of peace in Turkey, and what sets them apart from from male peace builders? How are they uniquely positioned to build peace?
Rukimi, my presentation is continuing with the milestones of Turkish women movement, and then I am coming to the peace workers. If you allow me, I will just very shortly, I will just say how it evolved in Turkey. In this country, the women movement started at 1908, so it has a long history. During the Ottoman Empire, these photos are the pioneer women's. They mostly advocated through magazines. These two are the sorry, again I did it. These two are the pioneer women, and this is the first women association which address them as feminists, and this is their executive board. So feminism and women movement started very, very long time ago in this country. This is a very interesting activist woman, Belkıs Hanım. She was in those days, women cannot drive any cars, women cannot do anything, or they are not allowed to work by their own. They had to take permission from their husbands or fathers. In that structure, these women just get on a plane and say that women can do everything. So these movement, these activism started in those days in this country. Turkish Republic is a very, very important milestone. This woman, Nezihe Muhittin, is a marvelous woman who started an association on 1920, before the 3 years before the Republic, and she worked for the women's rights starting from there. With the Republic, she immediately gathered a political party called Women's Party, but since the women did not have the right for vote, so that their political party couldn't be registered. And then she again turned this organization to an association and then worked for the voting rights. And when we came to 1934, 18 women MPs were in the parliament. This was a very high ratio in those days. And this was all their efforts to make this. But after this, Women for Parliament, the government just forced to close the association as saying that you just get your voting rights, so there is no need to run an association for voting rights, even if everything is now normal. So there is a sleeping period in the women movement, especially between 35 and 70. 1970, just there is no right-based women association. Just there are some small branches of personal bodies and political parties, women branches. Uh, Between 90 and 80, there are progressive and leftist women organizations, but very few. And then, of course, comes the 1980 military corps, and everything is closed. After that, in 1979, women movement has its fuel to start a second era. These women are gathered together, and it was the first activist, first mass action after the military coup. Women succeeded to gather, and the main subject was violence against women. I love this picture very much. That's why I wanted to show you also. 82, there is an very rapid organizations and women come together. For instance, in 1960, 86, after just Sedan Convention uh, is on, we make a signature campaign, and we there were 4,000 signatures demanding from the government to ratify, to sign the Sedan Convention. And then associations started, and then big women congress started, and then we have our first shelter, women's shelter in 1990, and then we have our library, women's library, and then we demanded a special ministry from the state, and we gathered. Then there was a ministry of women in the state. And then feminism and women movement entered in the university because we have our first women studies and research center. It was a long run for CEDAW signature. Uh, and then after the government signed the CEDAW, we immediately started to advocate to change the civil code. And we have succeeded to get a lot of demands. After CEDAW ratified in 2002, we just make a campaign to change the some penal code uh, because it was an very there are some points in the penal code just saving men who are the cause of violence to women. So it was an also success. And then Istanbul Convention came, and then Istanbul Convention ratified. Uh, with the Istanbul Convention ratification, we really prepared with the women organizations, with participation of women organizations. We have this law called 6284, protection of women, especially. We do not want to say family. This government prefers always to say family, not women, but we use it as women. Violence against women entered into force. So that's why we are very hanging on the Istanbul Convention. What we have done as women to building a peace culture of peace in Turkey, there were platforms that gathering women and women in organizations to advocate for peace and peace cultures. These are some actions which took on the streets. This is a demand for peace meeting campaign. This is a part of that. And we prepared some peace spots in the streets of big cities, and a lot of women just gathered and sat there demanding for peace. Uh, these are other photos. This was a big meeting. The black and white photo is in Diyarbakir, but we did not did only some street actions. We also come together and make press conferences. Uh, we always say that we are for life, so we insist on peace. This was we all wear white, and with our purple ribbons, we demanded and insisted on peace. This was other some street actions, says again that we are for life, and we insist on peace. This is another big campaign, Thousand Women for Peace. This was an sitting action in the middle of Istanbul, and thousand women with their pancards sat on the Taksim Square, and it was a very effective action. There was another question that you have sent me. What sets us apart? Yes, we are not all together, especially with the Kurdish women movement. Uh, we sometimes set apart. But first of all, the big thing is fear. Although we are peace builders, peace activists, a lot of women are in fear because we do not feel safe. I have at my home, I am living with my daughter, and she has a notebook just near her bedside because I am aware that in one night they can come and take me into the custody. So she has that notebook with the addresses and phone numbers that she should call and just say that I have been taken in the custody. Yes, we live in such an environment in Turkey, and this uh, civic idea, civic movement is always shrinking. It is on purpose the government does this. They do not want to hear voices, especially the voices who are against their policies. So this is the most important thing that we are apart, the fear. And But I have to underline that Kurdish human rights and women's human rights organizations never stop saying peace. Uh, but this also make a diversity of the views. We did not finish our conceptual discussions yet. We are coming together time to time, not only will be organizations working for peace, but all organizations who are advocating and working for peace. And still we have mid discussion, but we discuss positive and negative peace is the main discussion problem. Uh, when we just say that the real peace is the positive peace and it is non-violence in all types, so we have to eliminate cultural violence, we have to eliminate structural violence and physical violence. So we have to take into consideration all types of violence, we say, which are for positive peace. But Kurdish people very, very highly and right, saying that, but in the meantime, we are dying. So we have to say stop to the physical violence. We have to stop the conflict, armed conflict in this country. They are right. But we know that if you are not addressing other types of violence, the peace process cannot be flourish, and that is not peace, that is just chase fire. So it can easily go back to the armed conflict. So we say that we have to address these other violence types. Especially women say so, because when women say that, say peace, they are also addressing their and their children's safety. So we when we say peace, we are addressing positive peace. So I speak a lot and I need a sip from my coffee, so I wait for your other question.
Thank you for that overview. It was really interesting to learn about how the women's rights activism evolved over the years and where we are today. So thank you for that. My next question to you is that what are the biggest challenges to women acting as agents of peace in Turkey, and how has Turkish civil society mobilized communities to face these challenges?
I can share my experience, what as telling you the story, what we have done. Yes, there is a big problem. Even sometimes speaking about peace is dangerous, as I have said just a few minutes ago. Uh, when everybody suggested when we started our association and we started our project, a lot of people, even some feminists, even some leftists, even some peace workers, suggested that don't say peace, say something else. And we said that no, peace has only one name and it is peace. We have to give peace a voice. That's why we have to say peace. So what we have done, we started with working with local journalists, thinking that giving peace a voice is very important at the local level. So we come together with the local journalists and local newspaper and media owners and realized workshop how peace journalism works. And this study is continuous. We have completed that project in 2016, but still we have our connections with more than 70 local journalists, and they are continuing to giving peace a voice. This is something important. Yes, we have to work locally. But we realized in those workshops that everybody is for peace because it is something very ethical. Uh, on the other hand, everybody says that, yes, I want peace, and then starts saying another sentence starting with but. They have their rules for peace. So everybody thinks that peace is just for him or herself, or how he or she understands peace. So when we are aware of this situation, we started our second big project. We come together with women organizations and ask only one question: how we will make peace? They said that we are in peace, most of them. They were not aware that there is a big conflict between communities. There are some disadvantages, communities who cannot raise voices. During these focus group meetings, these women organizations in 4 cities, we reached nearly 40 women organizations. They said that yes, we need peace initiatives, but we cannot uh, just we have to encourage ourselves to have to just get over our fears to say peace or to demand peace. So we started our another study about UN 1325, which was an awareness raising campaign, why it is important and why it is important to have a national action plan. With this campaign, a lot of women organizations thought that yes, we have an international agreement that we can depend on, so then they find it more easily to speak about peace. After that campaign, we noticed that women cannot imagine peace, or they cannot imagine that in peace their lives are also positively affected. So we started these workshops, Dreaming Peace workshops. We make peace from our dreams. More than 450 women just tell their peace dreams, not only in the country, but in their homes also, or in their cities, or in the world, how they think that, how they think their home, that they can say that I live in peace. So we started to dream about peace altogether. And there is a good report about it. We are just translating to English. Hopefully, we will succeed and put it in our website so everybody can reach how women dreams peace. This study was very important for us to learn also, because in this, among these women there were all disadvantaged group members are also participated in this workshop, especially the asylum seekers and uh, Syrians and Romans. A lot of communities were addressing their dreams of peace. So we learned a lot. Uh, but with the pandemic, it was really impossible to go and to conduct face-to-face workshops. So we give a break to it, because that workshops cannot be continued through digital platforms. We have to be together and we have to dream together. So we started Purple for Books. So we are continuing to address the main issues to our point of view in this way.
Thank you for that. Since you brought up Purple Phone Book, I also wanted to ask you, what are some of the other platforms that are available that help activists and civil society leaders to collaborate? And also, is there cooperation between organizations that address issues stemming from intersectionality of marginalized identities like gender, LGBTQ identification, refugee status, and so on? So what are some of the platforms available?
One of the successes of women movement in Turkey is to come together, to be in solidarity, and to set platforms in every main issue. This started after 1990. We had a big women gathering, and then we just started a platform right after that, and we discussed everything in that platform. So there was with the digital platforms, it was very quick to discuss every issue and addressed immediately. After that, this continued. The latest big platform is ESHIC, women platform for equality, we call it. This platform has more than 380 women associations, right-based associations. And our campaign for Istanbul Sözleşmesi goes through that platform. And this platform always saying that we are all together, and there are LGBT organizations, and there are some uh, uh, other organizations in it who addresses all these vulnerable groups. So we discuss every issue, and we just come to an end, and we decide all together. So yes, we are in solidarity, and we are, especially women organizations, always very careful to work together with LGBT people. And of course, we are working and we are working with the immigrant women also, and Roma women and trans women. All women are welcome to these platforms and say their words and share their opinions. And as these platforms are feminist organizations, we do not feel free to, if there is an against voice. We always discuss and come to a conclusion all together. So I always say that the women movement has a big success because we are very quick, and we can come together and speak together and discuss together and give voice to our issues all together.
Thank you. My next question to you is about the recent pandemic. So we've seen that the COVID lockdown has seen a global rise in domestic violence. It's not just unique to Turkey, but how have Turkish CSOs adopted intervention methods, or are there any innovative intervention methods that they've adopted to address this issue since the pandemic broke out?
When pandemic started, the women organizations, especially working violence against women who have solidarity and consultation centers, uh, acted very quickly to try to find out other ways to reach women. Of course, lack of solidarity centers and consultation centers, there was a very big rise of the ratios to the violence against women. But then these organizations are just set their digital communications. They empower their centers with these digital platforms, and according to them, although not all women, but most of the women can reach them because now everybody has cell phones. But the biggest problem is men are at home. So mostly women reach to these solidarity centers when their men, when the man goes to work. Early in the morning, women can easily call them. But when the men are at home, women did not mostly have this chance to reach the centers. And there are, in the pandemic period that I am giving some percentages there, this is the latest report from Women Organizations Federation, which runs an call center for violence against women. So they just made this report that they received calls during the pandemic period, and they are saying that the physical violence is rise 80%, and psychological violence raised 93%, and the demand for shelter rise by 78%. These numbers are very huge numbers. Just yesterday, the government again took the decision to ban going out in the weekends, especially. So I think these numbers are continued to rise, and I am very anxious for that. As without the Istanbul Convention, we will are more vulnerable now.
So when we were planning this event, we actually didn't know that it would coincide with Turkey's withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention. It happened pretty quickly this month. So I guess I'm curious to know, what do you imagine would be the immediate and long-term effects of this decision?
First, I have to say that this decision is against our constitution, and it is against our national law. Because our constitution says that international conventions are like our national law. We have to obey what they say. And international constitutions, conventions are ratified by the parliament. And when an international convention ratified in the parliament, it can be withdrawn from the parliament also. So it is not valid when our prime minister or president says that with my decision, we are withdrawing our signature from the Istanbul Convention. First, the women organizations and a lot of other organizations, including bar associations or some political parties, they say that this decision is not valid. So Istanbul Convention is still on. First, we will continue to advocate for the constitution, and we are just going to court. A lot of women organizations and women are going to court saying that this decision is against our constitution. And of course, we do not leave the streets. Let me show you some pictures. Every day in 5, 6, 10, 15 cities, women are on the streets demanding that Istanbul Convention is ours and you cannot withdraw your signature from the convention. So every day we are on the streets, and we have a big platform advocating for Istanbul Sözleşmesi, Istanbul Convention now. And we are working, we have various working groups. And for instance, there are many lawyers and academics who are working what we should do, how we will go to court. There is another international relations working group. They are just sending a lot of letters and reports to the international communities and international bodies. There is another group, parliamentary group, who are monitoring what parliamentarians do. There is another working group, media and communication group, which I work also in that group. We are advocating through social media, through media every day. One of us is on some alternative TV or alternative platforms, telling to public that this is not acceptable and it is against our constitution. So this will continue. And of course, as you can see here, we are always discussing the issues and changing ideas through Zoom. Sometimes I say that we are all now zombies. yes, we are exhausted. We are more than 6 hours going through the Zoom discussions, but we will continue to continue to work and uh, to demand that withdrawal is not valid. Uh, your last part of your question was what will come. I cannot imagine, I don't want to imagine if this withdrawal decision comes to an end and say that is valid, yes, we are withdrawing our signature, then I am anxious that it can be easily, we may easily face that. 3 days later, the government or the president will say that we are withdrawing our signature from Human Rights Convention or Children's Rights Convention. Then what will happen? This will be a very hard example to our constitution. This will challenge all our uh, laws. I do not want to imagine what will happen. And we immediately see that after this withdrawal decision, in 12 hours, there was 6 women killed in 12 hours, right after the withdrawal decision. So patriarchy will not stop, and these such decisions are encourage them to act more widely, and the violence will rise. I don't know what to do if that day comes.
Thank you. In light of these issues, I think that an important question that comes to mind is that what kind of support systems or networks of alliance do you think that Turkish women peace builders currently need from the government and also from the international community?
We do not want anything from the government. We tell them that Tayyip Bisus, it means that Tayyip, the president, shut up. Don't say anything about women issues. Really, when he starts to speak, it is something against women. So we do not want him to do anything about women issues or peace issues or human rights issues. But of course, we have some expectations from the parliament because there are other parties in the parliament. So we want them to act with us. That's why we are monitoring all parliamentarians. We are just trying to expand our connections with them one by one. Just yesterday, we discussed that every city has different numbers of parliamentarians. So we were just shared all 600 parliamentarians to monitor and to just convey what we think, what we want to do, what we want them to do. So we believe still in the parliament, although it is very hard, but still there is a small hope. Of course, international community, we want solidarity and we want them to raise public pressure together with us and make pressure the government to follow the international law and withdraw their withdrawal signature decision.
Thank you. My final question to you, because I wanted to kind of end on a slightly hopeful, optimistic note, and this is also a question that I've received from our audience member, Nurcan Chetinbash, is that what gives you hope for the future of women and other marginalized groups in Turkey?
First, we are not afraid. We are not silent. We are holding hard. We do not obey. We are together and we are in solidarity. That's all I need. That's all we need. And when we are in solidarity against this picture and against patriarchy, we can do it. This is my hope. So I just stop my screen. Yes.
Thank you. We hope that we can all do it as well, as a woman here in the US. And as we approach the end of Women's History Month, we all recognize that we all have a long way to go in every country, in every part of the world, not just in Turkey. So I can assure you that at least among the members of the audience here, and as HasNa, the host, you have an ally in us. So thank you again for your time. And we do have some questions coming in from the audience. And we don't have that much more time left. So I'm going to try to get to as many of them quickly as possible. So one of the questions that we have here from Osman Bengur is that what can men do in Turkey and in those of us in the US to advance human rights for women?
There is a lot of things men can do. First, educate themselves and other men, and just raise their voice for women's rights, for human rights. Yesterday, a television journalist asked me, "What can make the same question?" And immediately he asked me that if you are going to the streets, will men can participate? This question, it comes to our ears very often. Men always want to participate and to dominate our actions. So I suggest to all men, please just organize a big movement, big action, and invite women. So why are you waiting for? Why are you waiting for women? Just everybody says that women human rights cannot be realized without working with men. Please bear in mind that the funds are very small for women's studies. So I will not spend my energy, my small fund to educate men. I will use it for women, all my energy and my funds, my money, because it is very, very few. So please, men, just make your own programs, make your own education, make your own funds, and just fight against patriarchy together with us. Sorry if I offended, but this is a question that I am trying to answer for more than 40 years. So I am a little bit exhausted of answering this question.
No, I agree with you. And in fact, we've also in the past, HasNa has implemented projects on actually focused primarily on engaging men and boys in combating gender-based violence in Turkey. So I think that's one of the areas that requires a lot of work. And I'm glad that these questions are being asked. And I hope that we can work together, men and women, to come to a solution. So thank you for that. Our next question is that you mentioned that there's a shrinking space for civic action in Turkey in general. So how do your and other organizations deal with this? And are communities more or less likely to organize under these circumstances?
We hear that a lot of local women organizations, local LGBT organizations are shut down by the force of the government, or people are shut their own organizations because of the fear, because of the pressure. And every day, for instance, the right-based workers are addressed or put into the target in the mainstream media in this country. And as I have mentioned before, yes, we are in fear and we are in danger. Uh, but this country and we activist people are used to it. We will continue to work. We did it after the military corps. We did it after all pressure campaigns. We did it after they ended the peace process. We will continue to do it. And nowadays, they started to monitor and evaluate, especially women and LGBT plus associations, and they are just giving a lot of penalties to us. And my organization is under evaluation for more than 15 days. And every day they are demanding, they are finding something inappropriate. Although there is nothing, they are just trying to find it. And maybe they will find it. They will give a lot of penalty, but we will somehow survive and we will continue.
Thank you. We have a few more questions trickling in and not that much time, so I'm going to try to consolidate some of these questions because the themes seem to be similar. So I guess you talked about the peace movements in Turkey and, gave us a little bit of an overview of why you prioritize peace building. One of the questions that keeps, coming up is that what are the different types of violence? And I know you touched about on this, but can you speak a little bit about the kind of violence faced by minority communities in Turkey? So whether it's Kurdish women or Syrian refugee women, or even women with disabilities, or the more sort of vulnerable, marginalized groups, and how can we make them how can we use language that would actually make them owners of their own fate rather than treating them as a minor inconvenience in the grander scheme of humanitarian assistance?
Different types of violence. As a peace worker, I also work to raise awareness against cultural violence and structural violence. And violence against women, which all types of violence against women, is a structural and also cultural violence type. So we have to think all together. But if we are especially speaking about violence against women, I am not an violence expert, but after all these years, I gained some experience. One of the biggest problem is only physical violence is understood as violence. Although gender-based violence is not only physical violence, there is a huge range of psychological violence. There is a huge range of economic violence. There is a huge range of sexual violence. We have to address all. As I gave you some numbers before, please bear in mind that 93% of psychological violence rise during the pandemic. Let us think all together. Why? Because men are at home. Men are together all day with women, and they do not need any other excuse to show violence to women with their patriarchal mind. So we have to raise awareness to the all forms of violence. On the other hand, there are, we call it double violence to, for instance, if you are a refugee, if you are a disabled woman. So the violence is going all together because you are against the structural violence if you are a refugee and if you are a woman. So the violence against you is doubled. If you are disabled, there is a cultural and structural violence. And if you are a woman, disabled woman, all these types of violence is doubles or triples that the violence that you are facing. So that's why I always say that let us not speak only physical violence. The uh, other violence types are very as dangerous as physical violence because they have the potential to turn to a physical violence immediately with a very small flame. So we have to be very careful while addressing the violence.
Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our allotted time. So for anybody whose question that I was not able to get to, I'm really sorry. I hope that this live event will provide a platform for all of you to connect with each other. And with your permission, Sebna Hanum, if I could, some of the audience members have, sort of expressed a desire to contact you or get in touch with you.
Yes,
So if that's
please.
okay, I would, I'd be happy to make introductions or share your email address with them.
Yes, please.
This is,
Please do.
I'm really excited because, one of our objectives is to create these networks and form alliances so that, women's rights activists and women's rights organizations can work together. So since that is already happening, I think that we've managed to make a little bit of a difference, and that's very heartening for me to see. So once again, we are very grateful for your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's later in the evening for you right now. And thank you to our wonderful audience for being so engaged and for the wonderful questions that you've sent in. I hope that you got something out of this conversation, and this will only kindle a renewed discussion on women's rights all over the world. So thank you once again, and have a great rest of your week.